Welcome into another episode of the Raging Buffalo. Derek Kramer, and look at this, it's Kyle Powell. Holy crap! And,
fresh swag.
Oh, fresh swag with the Nats stuff there. And this is Kyle's first appearance on these new episodes with the podcast. So go ahead, look at that post-test and with his World Series swag from the Nats winning it all with the pennant in the MLB. So good for that. We'll hit on that a little bit as well. But we're probably going to be primarily hockey today, along with other musings, because we got our boy Joe Yerdon from The Athletic here in with us for this Raging Buffalo. Oh, do it for the camera, man, not for us. There you go. There it is. There it is.
Mic stand's probably totally in the way.
Yes. No, they're not that bad. I mean, I kind of thought a little bit in advance about everything. I'm not a terrible shot. I did go to school for this. Maybe just a little bit there. There we go. But here it is. I mean, first off, yes, we're talking hockey when we've got a week without hockey. Oh man, that's a tough way to transition to that. But Joe, it's first off, it's great to be able to talk to you.
Yeah. And
it's great to have our first guest of the Raging Buffalo be the noted jerk himself. So
I'm doing a lot of posing here. So.
You're doing a lot of posing. Hey, you're working the camera. He's already elite, people. Already elite at being a guest for us here. This is a great way to start it off, being the hype man here, and he's just hitting all the poses. Next thing you know, he's going to give us the one of those Risto sellies.
I don't know if I can pull that off. There's I don't know, maybe a little air guitaring. Yeah, a little machine gunning right down there. I can't do the strut with the stick. I can't really do that one.
I've learned I'm only capable of doing one of two I can't do both at the same time on the ice.
It's a good way to throw a few joints out of place.
Yeah, it's also just an easy way to fall down.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned from practice. And by practice, I mean I tried it once because I saw it and I'm like, this looks fun. Oh, shit.
I was anticipating a bigger celly when you scored in the 11-day power play because I was there watching.
Oh, the first goal was very much big time. Kyle was running the board for it. I got made fun of big time, actually. So you missed that one probably. Because I scored twice.
I saw at least one. No, I think I was there for that whole shift. So I probably saw both. And
the first one I'm spinning on the ice with the air guitar going on. And, Mike and Chris were mocking me a lot there.
Well, that's tough.
That's really. It is what it is. I'm there for the show. That's all it is.
You got to break out the classics for those though. You got to do the old Tiger Williams riding the stick. You gotta do like the Theo Fleury, just like rambunctious all over the ice.
If I was good enough to score more than 2 goals, I would absolutely take this advice. Still a leading scorer.
Hey,
what up? There you go. Power play right there. Even recapping some power play stuff from back in the day there, and probably have more of that stuff in the future too. But we want to talk some Sabres hockey as well. Enough about me and my terrible ass playing hockey. We don't need that. We don't need any more of that. Because the last thing I need is my friends going, dude, you suck.
I don't know. The last Sabres game's about as recent as the 11-day power.
Yeah, pretty much. And
Ancient stuff.
The last one we got was no legit goals.
Yeah.
One going in off of a skate and probably in the luckiest way possible.
Yeah.
And honestly, wouldn't you say that's a bit of a tough way to go about it?
It is, and I'm extremely curious to your thoughts, especially since we had you here today, what it's like or what you think it will be like to have to sit around for a week's time sitting on that type of loss if you're the Buffalo Sabres. Like, if it's a 1-0 game with a nasty snipe, you're like, okay. But the way it ended and the way that they've just kind of they do all this travel, and now they have to have been chomping at the bit for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days going on now. What do you think their mindset is, having to sit on this for so long? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing to refresh and not have to be on the ice? Or if you were the Sabres, would you have wished that they had another game in 2 days?
You know, if this was a Sabres team that was not being coached by Ralph Krueger, let's put it that way. There's been a few coaches here the last few years. But if it was coached by anybody else, I would probably say those guys probably want to play, 12 hours later, like, just let's get that out of our mind, because that was such a frustrating game. They had a lot of great chances. Like they hit 3, 4, 5 posts, something like that.
Yep.
Varlamov comes up with a couple of pretty good toe saves. He stops Saboka. I know. He stops Saboka like a minute into the game with like a toe save where it's like, just lift it a little bit, and you're gonna score. And maybe the game plays out a little different if if they bust one out early. Especially after how that Caps game went, you throw that in the bin immediately after that game's over and say, all right, forget that, let's move on. But I think with this team, that as soon as that game is over, they're just like, all right, on to the next one. It's a very forward-thinking philosophy. Instead of stewing on what's occurred and letting that eat you alive, they're just like, okay, they get a dumb luck goal. Carter played really well. Everybody else played really well. It was a really good game for them, and they just didn't get a goal. So it comes off. You don't get 2 points. You don't get 1 point. So it's kind of a bummer, and it's it's probably in the back of their heads. Well, you know what? Move on. Go get Tampa. Tampa's struggling. It's going to be a whole different kind of atmosphere. Like it's a giant field trip with 2 hockey games thrown into it. So have fun with the trip, enjoy the experience, and then go get 4 points. Get it against a team that right now you're in playoff competition with.
Yeah, it's strange seeing the Tampa Bay Lightning a little further down in the standings. I think they're 14 points right now in the standings. 14 points. So it's weird to see Tampa down there. And even then, we'll talk more about around the league and the gaps between the garbage tier and the rest of the league, it looks like. But a Tampa Bay Lightning team that can be had at this point. But the Sabres need to start finding themselves some goals again because the well's kind of gone up dry. They got 2 in the Arizona game, then 1 against Capitals, now none against the Islanders. It's like, guys, we need something again. Anything, just get some more scoring involved in this team because goaltending's playing really well overall. 2 of the last 3 games, you saw Hutton just with some down-on-your-luck goals. The Arizona game, one of those pucks had eyes after what was a fairly good first period from the Sabres. They looked like they were going to go in 2-0, and then they're only up 2-1 because this puck Hutton's on the post, and there's just one hole, and the puck just finds it.
You can count both regulation goals in that game as fluky. The other one was straight up in the air and I believe bounced off his back.
That's right.
Went off his back.
We had a back goal.
Off his back.
Yes. And so Hutton's playing out of his mind. Allmark was just let out to dry, and there's really not much you can blame him for. Each of these guys
was a really bad 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was a really bad 10 minutes. I mean, but luckily at that point in the wonderful game of hockey, you can forget about that the minute that game is over. It's really bad 10 minutes. You move on, and then again you get that just as frustrating in a different sense loss to the Islanders. Yeah, I think there's a lot to stew on, but like you said, Ralph Kruger seems to know what he's doing from a leadership standpoint to allow these guys to be a little more tough in this sense. And one of the biggest things that fans are worrying about right now is it's kind of like the same thing as the Bills. You haven't played anybody. That's really one of the biggest things right now is you haven't played anybody. You got to beat good teams. Like the Islanders are a good team. The Capitals are a good team. You guys didn't do anything against them. So there's one of those concerns there, but overall, they may have lost, 4 of their last 5 now?
Yeah.
I'm not concerned right now. I'm not thinking that there's anything too high or anything too low. Be balanced more in life. Have your inner zen while watching hockey, because with the Sabres these past 8 years, you need it.
Yeah, and that's something where, you talk to any of these guys, and they're big on the mindset thing, where it's, I think, and when Ralph is being critical, or when he's being instructive, it's taken from a positive standpoint where it's like, okay, here are the things you're doing very well at. Here are your strengths. We need you to help. We're going to help you work on these other things, but the strengths are stressed, as opposed to, I think the classic move for coaches is to say, yeah, you're doing all these other things, but this is what you're supposed to do. These things you suck at, so we're, don't suck at these things. Let's figure it out. And then, it's not really instructive. It's not really it's finding a way to work on it, but it's coming from the emphasis of the negative as opposed to the positive. It sounds like insane, like Tony Robbins kind of talk, where it's, be your best person sort of thing.
It's true though.
But it's the thing I've learned over these years in doing this and covering the NHL is just that the mental side of the game is so big. And, when people talk momentum in games and, as soon as you score a goal, it's like, oh, well, they got their legs underneath them. And it was like, well, yeah, they're riding a high of scoring a goal. And they're like, all right, let's get another one. And the other team is like, how do they react to it? Do they react to it and say like, all right, we'll get the next, all right, we'll get them back? Or do they say like, oh crap, what do we do? What do we do? And it's safe to say, Sabres teams of the last 7-8 years have been like, oh crap, what do we do when they get scored on? Or, oh no, they scored, let's give up. You know, like we can't score any goals. Yep. Here we go again. No, that's enough. So that side of things, like, it's such a different room. Like, a lot of the faces are the same. A lot of these faces are the same faces that were there last year. But the attitude and the approach to everything is so much different. And that's Ralph. That's Ralph telling, pointing to things. Now, if things take a really bad turn, like say if this turns into losing, 7 out of 8, or something like that, where it's, you string together a few more losses, if they come back from this trip with no points, we'll see how well the talk works when it doesn't turn into results. And I think that was a big problem with Phil. They liked Phil a lot. They enjoyed him as a guy, but a lot of Phil's answers, they weren't answers. It was just like, well, if we do the things right, the way I'm saying that we're going to do them, it'll work. And it's like, but it's not working. Nothing's working. We got to try something different. It was like, no, we're not going to do anything different.
That's an interesting question. Just a quick aside, without going too much back into the past. I've always been intrigued by, superstar players turning into coaches like that, and they can go one of two ways. They're great teachers, or they flop because they were so good at what they did for so long, they never really learned how to teach it. Now, you were in the room a lot, obviously. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's what happened to Phil Housley in his tenure here in Buffalo? Was he just a superstar, elite caliber kind of defenseman, and he meant well, and his rhetorics and his styles, it was supposed to translate, but it just came so easy to him that it was tough to dictate out to the players he was leading?
Well, I think with Phil, and when he was here recently with Arizona, we had a chance to speak with him, and the thing I asked him, I said, what was the biggest thing you learned from being a head coach? And he said it was all the processes and everything that you have to do to make things work. There's so many more responsibilities when you're the guy, as opposed to being the defensive coach or the assistant coach, where it's like, okay, we want you to work with the defenseman, get those things right, help out the PK, help out the power play, just work with these guys and it'll be great. Like, worked really well in Nashville, did great in Nashville, seems to be working pretty good in Arizona now with Tocchet. And, the crew of defensemen he had to work with last year, it would be a hot topic sort of thing to say, but Dahlin was, otherworldly last year. Zach Bogosian was really good last year, and he gets not a lot of credit for it because people are tired of him, and I get it. Ristolainen, it's the same problem that it's been with every coach, where it's too many minutes, he's not doing the right things, he's got the bad habits, whatever. But with those guys, he showed so much growth for them. And it's like, wow, he was able to really help them out. But with the forwards, it was a lot different. And when you're trying to get that all together for the team, there's so many things you got to juggle, and it just didn't end up working. And that's unfortunate, because Phil's a super nice guy, super friendly guy, and it's just like you feel bad bagging on a nice guy. And that's the hard part with Phil, where you want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, give him another year, give him another half year. If it stinks, then you can him. But I think the Sabres were in a spot where that wasn't realistic. You can't do that, because the second you fire a coach mid-season, you got to redo everything else. And if you got a guy in mind that you want to bring in, like in this case, it was Ralph Kruger, where his time with Southampton was over. So it's like, all right, this is the way we got to go with it. You want to be fair to that guy and allow him to have a training camp, allow him to get them ready from the get-go, instead of throwing them halfway through when you're already down and out and saying like, all right, save us. That never really works unless you're like on that precipice of being good, or if it's just very clear that the room is done with them. Like, think back to Pittsburgh when Terrien was fired, or even Mike Johnston was fired. Terrien goes out, Bilesma comes in, hooray, win the Stanley Cup.
It was St. Louis last year.
St. Louis, same thing. Mike Johnston gets fired, Mike Sullivan comes in, hey, win the Stanley Cup, win 2 in a row. It's just a goofy thing that, like, sometimes that message gets through and other times it doesn't. And for Jason Botterill, he's not in the spot to be able to play a risk like that and say like, well, I want to be fair to Phil. If you be fair to Phil, you're probably cutting your own head off, because you're going to put somebody in halfway through the year and that's going to be it.
Yeah, and Botterill had to make a hire that would help him out in the end here as well. And the start that Kruger has gotten the Sabres off to, that is one of those things. Now, you mentioned how different the room is under Kruger, but one of the big things that I've seemed to notice from the outside is it's a lot of the little things that it seems like this team is doing differently. There's no morning skates very often with Kruger. The emphasis on sports science and the fact that Kruger is not really too much with tinkering his roster around. He did it for one game, it seems, but now he's kind of already got it back to the lines that we saw for most of the year so far, heading into this weekend with the Sweden games.
Yeah, and I think that's just something where that Washington game was so bad, where you've got an idea, because he's worked with some of those guys, some of those combos before. We've seen VZ play with Eichel and Reinhart. We've seen some of those other combos before in late game situations. You got to try something. You get kicked in the ass 6-1, and you don't even look like you're in the game for the most part. You gotta give a shot to something. Like, it's worth trying. Plus, you're getting VZ back in the lineup. You're getting Montour back as well into that mix, and you're just like, okay, well, let's see what we can do here. Let's see how this works out. And I think that's a big impetus to try to just like, all right, this was an idea we had in training camp, so let's see how it works in a regular season game.
Now, you mentioned Brandon Montour, and also now Lawrence Pilot has been called up to the team for this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, another Swede. Think the Sabres going to be the home team, guys?
How sweet it is.
Yeah.
Yes. But you mentioned this, now I bring up this as one of those big talking points, so I'm going to be that guy. There was a report from, I think it was Pierre LeBrun, athletic colleague of yours, yes, saying that it looks like it might be the likes of Scandella and Bogosian that are the more likely to be dealt from this Sabres team. What are your thoughts on the surplus of defensemen and the course of action that you suspect that they might take with having so many capable NHL defenders at this point?
Well, I think at this point they've seen pretty good growth out of Ristolainen. I mean, it seemed destiny that he was going to be moved. From summer on, every guy that they added, it was like, okay, well, now they have 9 defensemen under NHL contract. Now they have 10. Now they have 11. Like, you can only play 6 of them. You can't play 11. You can't keep 9 defensemen on your roster. Like, it just seemed like it was a matter of time for Ristolainen, because it seemed like it was just an impasse. He's been here for 5 years, 6 years. He's done so much, and you kind of know what he is. But if Ralph can't fix him, what do you do? That's still his selling point is still based on on potential. And instead, you've got guys who are on expiring contracts. They're going to be free agents. I think in the case of a Scandella, he plays hard. He's great in the room. Guys love him. He's got a pretty good shot. I mean, he loves ripping the slappers. Mm-hmm. He's got like the most iconic looking slap shot, I think, on the roster.
That's right.
It's a thing of beauty to watch. But he plays with that kind of edge. He's the kind of guy that when you think playoff teams, you're just like, all right, well, there's a guy that's going to do all the dirty work for us. He's gonna do all the nuts and bolts kind of stuff that gets coaches all excited. Like, that's from that standpoint. Plus the fact that he's a UFA next summer, it's like, all right, we can take a run at him, add him to our team. Cool. I think Bogosian's the same sort of way, but he's got to play some games. He's got to show that he's healthy. He's good to go. Getting hip surgery 2 years in a row is horrible, and having a setback during the summer, it's just like, man, if the guy didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all. So, but he did have a good year last year, so you're building on that and saying like, well, this is another guy great in the room, does a lot of the nuts and bolts stuff. We'll stick up for teammates. We'll do all those things that check all the boxes for when you think of stereotypical playoff player. He does all that stuff. He just hasn't had a chance to go to the playoffs yet. That's the only thing. So I think from a selling standpoint, those guys are easier to move. I think a Ristolainen trade, if you're going to do it, is a lot harder because he has
a lot more
years.
discussion.
So it's a lot more discussion. It's a lot more years. And yeah, you're probably going to get a better player in return, but pulling that player away from a team that wants Ristolainen is a lot harder to do because it's talent for talent, and nobody wants to lose a trade. Nobody wants to make a fair trade. Everybody wants to win the trade. Mm-hmm. And making a fair trade is so hard to do. It's so rare when you get one that happens. You think of it probably looks a little unfair now, but you think of like Seth Jones for Ryan Johansson.
Yeah.
Like that seems like at the time it was a perfectly fair trade. It's Columbus needs a defenseman, Predators needed a center in the worst way. Perfect, done. 1 for 1. Call it even. And then you get a Taylor Hall for Adam Larson, and it's it's a 1-for-1 that doesn't exactly work, and it's because Taylor Hall had an MVP season. Adam Larson's fine, perfectly serviceable defenseman, belongs in probably anybody's top 4, top 6. But Taylor Hall's a bona fide number 1 left wing, scores you 40 goals, wins an MVP award. You're not winning that trade by making that a 1-for-1 unless it's a superstar going in return.
Well, you can look at the Sabres in particular right now. Like the Ryan O'Reilly one is the one that fans will immediately point to. But then you remember Jeff Skinner for a second and a third, and Cliff Poo, and then there's Colin Miller for, what was that, a third or a second?
Essentially a dump, but it was definitely favoring the Sabres in that way.
You favor the Sabres in that kind of shape. The Brandon Montour trade, that one's already looking good for the Sabres. And if Gooley develops into something and that first round pick, then that's a win-win on both sides. Like, there's not many of those, as you mentioned. Like, we can look at the newest one with Henry Jokiharju for Alex Nylander. I mean, Sabres fans are certainly not giving up what they've gotten back out of this in return for a guy that was just not going to crack the Sabres lineup, it looked like.
Yeah.
And if he progresses in Chicago, then cool. You got a win-win out of the whole thing. But Sabres fans, I don't think we're going to be bitching about that one anytime soon.
No, nobody's hanging the won the trade banner on that one yet, but it sure feels like at some point that's going to happen. You go from Nylander in situation, he goes from playing with Taves and Kane to being 4th line and scratched, and now it's just kind of like that team.
In like a minute.
I think it was 3 games.
Yeah.
We got 2 or 3 games, and it was just like, all right, that's not going to work. And I a couple friends in Chicago were like, if you get put on a line with those two, pass them the puck. Don't try to slow play it and dangle and try to get out, try to do special things.
Right.
Let those guys help you do special things instead of you trying to set them up. And kind of is like what happened here a little bit. Anytime you got an NHL turn, it's just, you put him with Jack and it's like, all right, well, Jack's got to be your possession guy. Just, don't fart around with it and turn it over in the neutral zone or, fumble it in your O zone and not create an opportunity. And, Alex is tremendously talented, but at some point it's got to click. And Buffalo is not in a position to wait for it to click. And Chicago was like, well, we got these prospect defensemen we got on the way, and Henry's just kind of in the way, so you take him. And
okay,
it didn't make any sense because all the numbers checked every box of what I want.
We got video. Do you want to do the bit?
No, I do not want to do the
Come
bit.
on, you got the
Dubas
thing. You got the Dubas voice. You got that terrible Dubas voice. Come on, let's do this.
It was our Sabres producer's bit. It was not mine.
I know, but
I hit my hand over my nose, and he basically, when that trade went down, he acted like he was Kyle Dubas, saying, "Do you want Nylander for Jokiharju, William Nylander?" Stanbone and said, "Yes, of course." So
hang on, we got who?
We did Nylander for Jokiharju. It's great. Like, wait, did you check the names in that one? Hang on, we gotta check the name. Anybody check the names?
716 area code.
Oh no.
Oh crap.
But I mean, it's like you can almost hang the won the trade banner on that one, even though it's been 2 months. But Jokiharju's probably the most solid guy they got back there now, so that's huge. I thought he was going to be bounced out in training camp because we had so many defensemen, and
right.
He had the free ability to go to Rochester. Now it's like if you put him in Rochester now, you have people throwing eggs at the arena, just wanting them back, and Rochester fans would be doing donuts.
Cartwheels,
in the parking lot,
absolutely.
You'd be questioning if the team's tanking again. What are you doing? Wrong move. No.
But I mean, it's just proving right now that Bottrell's had a penchant for just hoarding defensemen. Like he can never have enough, and right now it's like, oh, right, this is exactly why you do that, because guys will get hurt. And granted, having 11 on NHL contracts is quite a lot, but Pilot coming off surgery, Bogosian coming off surgery, Scandella gets hurt. Who else got hurt? Like there's just
Montour
gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Like these things happen, and right now it's helping them push that cart down the road of like, we don't have to make a deal yet. We can wait it out, and that's to their benefit because they can also figure out who fits, who works, and who's best. To me, that's why I would love to see Pilot play in Sweden, because I think he's going to go right back to Roch after this weekend's over. But I'd love to see him get a game just to see how he fits in, because what I've seen of him in Rochester, he looks like a little bit of a different guy. Yes, he still wants to carry the puck. Yes, he still wants to attack, but he's not taking anybody's crap now. Like
good.
Before it was, he'd take a hit and then he'd just get very timid in the defensive zone, or anytime he was carrying the puck, so he's turning it over and he's getting lost. Now he's not taking anybody's crap. It's a pleasant turn of events to see with him, where he's kind of developed that part of him to say just like, no, I'm going to take a hit, and I'm also going to give it back to you, because that's kind of how you need to play. That's how you need to play in the NHL if you're going to play defense.
And it's one of those things that, with the bigger surface, you're not used to getting bumped like that as often. And especially with the AHL, it's, I would say, even more physical down there than it is in the NHL. So that's a great way for him to adjust and learn that kind of a style of the game. Like, yeah, I'm going to have the puck. You're going to hit me, but I'm still going to fight for that puck. It's my puck. Get the hell out of here. So I think that Pilot would be a fantastic addition for this team. And so far down, you still have a guy that's been in NHL in Casey Nelson. You have Will Borgen that's coming up the pipeline. Like, there's so many options there. And seeing overall the defense looking a little more promising now, but it's come at a cost.
Are we talking about the powers of the youngster?
Yes, I think we have to throw the Avengers meme into this one, with the team now doing so well early on. What did it cost you? Everything. And it's just a picture of Rasmus Dahlin.
Not so much. We're not ready to take.
He's our everything.
But I mean, we're deep in the media. We work the Sabres games. We see a lot of things on this cat. He's getting. He's been fighting it a little bit, and we just want to hear something positive. We want the fans to hear.
I just wanted to meme it up right now. That's all.
Well, no, I think it's good to remind the people that he's 2 years removed from
19.
He's 19 years old, and it's just growth.
Yeah, it's completely growth, and I think there's things that they're working with him on in the defensive end of the game, because Ralph said from the get-go, from that first preseason game in Penn State when he put Dahlin with Yoki Harju, and I said, that's a really interesting pair. What are you doing with that? And he said, excuse me, I'm talking to myself dry here. He said, we want them to be able to learn more of the defensive side to help their offensive side. So it's learning one to help increase the other. And you think of Dahlin last year, where everything he did was, I'm carrying the puck. I'm going to defend by making sure the other team does not have the puck. And this year, the defensive coverage part of his game has been a little. It's one of those watch the game things, where like the number, but the numbers kind of show that he's off. The Corsi numbers aren't as good as they were last year. The turnover numbers look like they're a little bit higher. Granted, it depends on whatever you consider a turnover, building to building. But he doesn't look as confident in the defensive zone, where there's been recently, at least anyways, there's been a lot more of him dropping down to kind of scattering and trying to block shots, swinging the stick on the ice, laying out,
he's
trying to
been
do
on the ice
anything
a
to
lot.
kind of cover, to be like, okay, all right, I got this, I got a handle on it. And it's very much, speaking of memes, it's very much like, this is fine, everything's fine, the room's on fire, it's fine, I got it, it's okay. And but in that situation, the room's not really on fire. The guy's possessing the puck, he's looking for room, but put your stick out, wave it around. He's a big kid, he's 6'2", 6'3", and he's faster than basically most, a lot of guys, unless it's, you're talking like a Pat Kane or somebody else, like looping around the zone. But he's able to keep on pace with them, and his skating is very good, so he can do a lot of those things. But instead, in his mind, he's like, I can't give up this pass, or I can't let this get out in front of the net. I can't let this guy shoot from a bad angle. Whatever it is, it's somewhere in his head where there's alarms going off, and he's like, nope, got to do this, and it's like, all right, breathe, just breathe. Remember where you've been at. Remember what you've done. Remember what we're trying to teach you, and just play. Just play the game, and you'll be fine. But I think in his head, he's trying to do too much, and you can fault guys for that if you want to, but like a kid that's that talented, if he's trying to do too much, I mean, he doesn't need to. That's the thing. He's better than most everybody on the ice. He doesn't need to try too much. He just needs to do what he does best, and he'll be fine. And I think, I kind of theorized this in my, my look ahead for, what's to come this week. And I said, maybe this trip will settle him down. His family, his friends are going to be there. He's going to be like one of the chaperones basically for the team to like tell them like what's around here, what's going on. I mean, there's 1,000 Swedes on the team, but he's one of the guys that knows best like what's out there. So he gets to kind of be the tour guide, and he gets to settle down. He gets to like say, all right, yeah, this is what it's about. And I'm hoping that we're going to see the best of him this weekend, and like a lot of that stuff is going to go away, and it's going to be like, right, that's how I do things, and it'll turn things around because we know how good he is. We know how much better he can be, and right now it's just not there in his own zone. Power play, he looks like a masterclass, power play quarterback. I mean, it's incredible. Granted, power play's been getting figured out a little bit, but I mean, as far as controlling the zone, setting other guys up, making sure to find the right reads and everything, he's doing all of that beautifully. So, take the good with the bad, but yes, meme it up. It's a little Avengers. The rest of these doing great, but oh no, our sweet rookie man here is now suffering too, so we can fly.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I thought of when I was just thinking about it, what did it cost you? Everything.
But the thing with him though, it'll be back. He'll be fine. It's tough to say that when you're seeing those highlights, the lowlights of him just kind of being a little bit scattered on his own end. But we know what he can do. We've seen it already, and it's just a matter of getting the mind right to get back to that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's tricky, and like we mentioned, kid's 19. He's not going anywhere anytime soon, and he's going to be fine. It's going to work itself out in the end. I mean, we saw guys like Ekblad and Hedman, former top picks that are defenders, that they had their own struggles as well in their 19, 20-year-old seasons, and they only became some of the best defenders in the league now.
Right.
So it'll be fine. Everything's fine. Nothing's on fire. Like you said, nothing's on fire. He thinks there's things on fire, but it's going to get figured out, and there will be no fire.
It's
just ice.
For another reference, it's Star Wars after the shootout in the prison bay, where the alarm's going off and Han Solo just says, "Everything's fine. We're all fine here. Everything's fine."
Boring conversation.
How are you? And it's just a matter of Donnelly just shooting out the communicator, being like, "Whatever, we got company. Let's go."
Look at this, just fresh memes all over for you here on the Raging Buffalo. That's what we do here. We just give you the memes and the hockey talk and all the other stuff that we want to talk about there. Obviously, though, the Sabres are not the only surprise in the NHL. Before we decided to sit down with this today, yes, we do prep. What's up? Do you come at us? I don't know. But I'm noticing, though, in every division, there is at least one or two garbage tier teams, and then the rest of the division, it's pretty much a tight race throughout. Mm-hmm. You can look no further than the Atlantic. What is it? The two that you would have guessed. Ottawa, Detroit, 9 points. Blech. Mm-hmm. Gross. But then we looked out west, and you see the same thing. The Pacific Division, what is it, teams are...
If I remember correctly, in the Western Conference as a whole, there's 7 teams between 20 and 23 points, and then a very far decline.
Yes. And that far decline, the Kings and the Sharks at 11, gross. And then in the Central Division, it's the Blackhawks and the Wild, gross. And then in the Atlantic, it's the Devils and the Rangers, gross. Everyone else is kind of either fine or good.
Yeah.
But it's just you have the Bruins and the Caps. Then you got the Sabres, and then you got Florida. There's a jumble underneath the two top teams. But then there's just this sharp cliff, and it's Ottawa, Rangers, Detroit, Devils, maybe Columbus.
I think that's just the way Big Four sports are going these days.
If you're not,
truth be told,
if you're not good, you're really bad.
I mean, we just finished the Major League Baseball season where we had, I think, 3 100-win teams and 3 100-loss teams.
Now that I think about it, Christ, look at the AFC East.
That too.
Patriots, Bills, garbage.
A lot of teams, their front offices were just saying, if we're not going to be competitive, we're going to be really, really bad, and we're just going to suffer through it and try and see the light at the end of the tunnel before we're replaced.
I mean, to be fair, the Jets, they're doing it by accident.
they didn't try to do it by accident last year, but they're definitely doing it by accident.
They're doing it by accident right now. I think the Jets are Malibu's Most Wanted. You see that? I just shot my foot. And it's real! The Jets are the idiot with the foot shot, and he's hopping around like an idiot. But yeah, no, you mentioned it, across all of the sports, actually a really good point. But it is kind of funny to see it with the NHL too. They're not without exception, and it's just a sharp cliff where you're either okay to good or you're terrible. And I mean, first off, we can count our stars that the Sabres are not amongst the teams rolling ass right now. But at the same time, it's a little head scratcher, including a team like, say, San Jose. And you know where the problem is. Same problem that they had ever since their Cup final run.
Yeah, goaltending. Goaltending is a huge problem.
Goaltending's a huge problem there.
Marty Jones is...
Go see Trey White.
Do you see them making a desperation move for that position? Like hitting the big red button?
I would think they should. I mean, they know it's a problem. I mean, it was a problem all last year, but they invested so much money in Martin Jones to, because he was brilliant when, the first year of that deal, he was great. And you're thinking like, all right, we got this all settled. And all last year, you're thinking, maybe they're thinking it's like Braden Holtby, because Holtby was not good the entire season. And then it took till game 3 of the first round when they were on the precipice of being down 3-0 to Columbus, and Holtby gets the start. It's like, all right, well, let's figure it out. Like, here we go. And then Caps rolled from there. And I think the Sharks were kind of counting on that to happen, that the playoffs would start. Hey, he's got it figured out. And, they were fortunate against Vegas, because Vegas got very reckless. You give up 4 power plays on a major penalty in the third period in a game you're up 4-0 or 3-0. It's horrible, but
oh yes, I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, making the playoffs and all that.
Welcome to the rest of sports fandom.
But I mean, and Jones did play decently until he didn't anymore in the playoffs, and they were close to knocking off. I think it was St. Louis in the second round. They were really close to beating them, and Jones is probably the reason they didn't get past. Or that was the
West Final.
That was the West Final. Yeah. So if Carlson's got a healthy ankle, Jones makes a couple of saves, they're probably in the Stanley Cup final. And now they're in the bottom. And now you're just kind of like, all right, well, what do we do here? So I think they're in a spot where they have to figure out if Jones is irreparable. Like if they can't fix him, they can't get him back on the good foot, then what do you do? Because Aaron Dell's not your guy. They don't have a guy coming up out of San Jose in the AHL. There's not a prospect in waiting, so they're kind of stuck. And if you're going to make a big trade, it's like what Elliot Friedman says, other teams don't throw you a life preserver, they throw you an anchor. And so like what anchor are you taking on in order to try to save your goaltending? And I don't think the answer to that is a good one, because even though you've got Joe Thornton there and he keeps everything really chill in that room, and now you've got Marleau back, and you've got Couture, who's showing himself to be a very strong voice in that room as a captain. You got a lot of leadership there, but that's a group that's been together for a long time, and Burns is getting a little older, and he's 35 now, which blows my mind.
Seriously.
Can't believe he's that old.
Well, the beard actually, it makes sense a little bit now that you think about it.
Until the gray hairs start showing up in it, then I'll never know.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got Carlson, who's had, he had his Achilles, ripped open a few years ago. His ankle was garbage last year. He's had groin problems. He looks off. They're not getting a lot of shot generation from those two, from Burns or Carlson. So it's like, well, who's doing anything here? And that's a team that's looking at some really hard questions. And fortunately for them, Doug Wilson knows how to make a trade. And if you're gonna push a button, he's the guy I'd like to have in charge of pushing that button.
One team that might be willing to listen to something could be possibly like a team like the Minnesota Wild. I mean, Devin Dubnyk is there, is still a solid goaltender, and the Wild are just absolute tire fire.
Mm-hmm.
They could be a team that could be looking to move something like that and finally do the rebuild that they've needed to do for so long. Because they've always been that middling team, that 7-8 seed, that third team in the Central, or the wild card when they've changed the format over, and they were never known to be a legitimate playoff threat. And those Suter and Parise contracts were one of the reasons why. You always had to keep going at it, and you had to keep going at it. Now you might actually go ahead and look at this with a different general manager now, and the second in 2 years, as a matter of fact, look at this team and go, maybe we need to do something about this. Like, actually fix it. Not keep putting Band-Aids on it. They're the this is fine in the room of fire.
Yeah.
That has been them for a long time. And now the bottom has actually come out on them. Jason Zucker is going to remain a popular name in trade talks, especially when that Phil Kessel trade was vetoed by the hot dog man himself. But Devin Dubnyk might be a name that a team like San Jose might be looking into or something like that. Because if they want to keep that core together for one more run of a couple of years or so, throwing a first rounder at Devin Dubnyk might not be the worst of ideas.
But if you're the Wild, are you taking Martin Jones in return? Like, that's
depends on how
thing,
much
right?
you want to bottom this out.
Right. I mean, that to me is the hang up there. I think you could move Dubnyk because he's proven himself pretty well the last few years. But I don't think Martin Jones helps make that any better for Minnesota.
Wait, you're giving me Martin Jones? I'm gonna want more from you now.
Yeah,
it's like it's a deterrent. It's like, yeah, we'll give you a first for Devin Dubnyk, and okay, I'm liking this, and Martin Jones. What do you mean, what and Martin Jones?
Slip that in there.
No, now you're giving me a prospect too.
But I think about the luck of the Wild. They ran into Chicago 3 straight years in the playoffs. Twice in the first round, once in the second round. Like,
Change the
what
format.
do you do? Like, what do you do? Like, you're facing the height, of greatness, Chicago. Like,
if you're worth anything, you got to beat him at least once.
I think two of those years they lost to him, they went on to win the Stanley Cup. So it's like neat. So you get to hang that participation trophy like on the mantle and say, hey, we lost to the eventual Cup winner. Great.
Quit losing
Yay.
home game 7s, Bruce.
But,
looking at you there.
But it's it's the kind of thing where it's just crap luck in the playoffs. You run into a team that's got the history. Like, neat, great, cool.
Neat.
Get to play them again. That's awesome. Love doing that. It's like when Washington and Pittsburgh would always meet in not the conference finals, and you're just like, neat, great, cool.
Again, change the format,
Right.
Batman.
But hey, Gary Bettman said the format works great for everybody except
Except
Toronto. Which I love trolling Gary. Trolling Gary's my favorite.
That joke might make it worth it. Might make it
A
worth
rare W, if we may say.
Yes. it. Maybe a curly W?
Hey!
Hey,
Very
look at that,
nice.
he's got it on there.
Very
Look at that,
nice.
Look at this guy with his Nat stuff on.
But I mean, like, yeah, it's. But I do love that kind of zinger from Bettman turned into asking teams that have won the cup, like, what can Toronto do to win the Stanley Cup now? And you're asking Ovechkin, you're asking Doughty, you're asking all these guys, like, hey, like, well, what does it take to win it? And for Ovechkin, like,
Why? What?
Like, it was such a long road. For Drew Doughty, it wasn't that long of a road.
like-
Like, it didn't take too long for him to win a cup.
I mean, Joe, you're one of those reporters in the pool. What the hell's the point of asking that question?
I think that's a question that happens when your team plays in Toronto. I think that's the key.
Christ.
Somebody's going to ask the question, and it's again.
Hey, you won a cup. What does it take for Toronto to win the cup? It's not all about you.
It's the internet meme again. It's the what does any move mean for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
That's right. How does this affect Toronto?
How does this affect Toronto?
Alex Ovechkin, you're in Toronto.
I'm gonna
How
let
does
it
this
fly.
affect
Fuck if I would know. There it is. Ding it up. Ding it up for me, Frank. My God, like, doesn't matter what it means to. That doesn't matter to those players, and then they're gonna get ripped for saying it. Like, you set them up for a lose-lose.
Yeah.
Of course, that's gonna happen.
It's
And then Doughty even mentions, like, you want me to say something, and then when I say something, you rip me apart for it. Like, how do I win here? You don't, Drew. It's because you had to ask a question about Toronto.
Well,
Damn it.
to be fair, that was a question about Vancouver,
To be
which
fair.
is Toronto West.
Well, we can't go Letterkenny too much here, unless Joe is for it.
I mean, I'm not against it.
There we go.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. See, there we go. Crap. How are you now?
Couldn't you?
Not
I have a
bad.
question. I have a question. So
I
last
always
He's
mess-
got the plaid on.
I
actually,
mess
so-
that up constantly, and this is definitely my Wayne shirt. So
There we go.
Very
I
nice.
just didn't tuck it in, so it's not a full Wayne.
And quite honestly, I think I could pull it. Like if I shave the beard and I just squint and I get the plaid on, that's an easy Halloween costume right there.
That's true.
Yeah, I could do it next year. Plan for next year.
All right, for both of yous. Last year I had a what? Yous?
I'm just squinting at the camera. That's all.
Oh, all right. Last year I had a running count towards the end of the season. I was intrigued on who would end up with more points: the Tampa Bay Lightning as a team or Nikita Kucherov.
That's right.
And it ended up tied. It was really boring. It was like kissing a sister.
That's actually
128. It was.
That's way more amazing.
That's still actually fantastic that they actually tied.
Exactly. Okay.
Because the team gets two and the player gets
one.
one. I actually might say that's still more on Kucherov, like more impressive.
100%.
Especially these days.
Yeah,
Nobody
right.
gets 130 points in a season now.
But now we're seeing David Pastrnak, 30 points in 15 Boston games. Who gets more points at the end of the season?
15 goals and 15 assists in 15 games.
Very exciting.
It's very symmetrical.
So both of you here, season ends. Who ends with more points, the Boston Bruins or David Pastrnak? It's quite the edge. Actually, yeah.
Why do you gotta ask me that when you know I hate the Bruins?
11-2-2. Boston's sitting at what, 26 right now? 24?
Can I just say go to hell?
He's got a 6
You're allowed
point edge.
that.
6 point edge.
He's got a
15
6-point
games
edge.
into the season.
I mean, I feel like the team has to take some L's eventually, right? Right? Or does Boston just get everything good? Oh wait, no, Lamar Jackson happened. Bam! Let's go, son. You're gonna get me pissed off, aren't you? You're gonna get these people to see me flip out, aren't you? Because I hate Boston. Why did you have to do this? Why does it have to be Boston?
Accidentally lit the fuse.
I did.
God
I
damn
was
it!
Intrigued. I loved looking at the scores.
Why do
every
they
game
have to be
last
so
year.
good?
The last 2 months, I'm like, all right, Tampa won, but how many points did
Everyone's all pissed off when
This is
Ryan
so
O'Reilly wins the Conn Smythe Trophy. I'm like, good, the Bruins don't. The Boston doesn't need another friggin' championship.
I just needed a one-word answer
God
out of him. One-word answer.
I will say, watching that Game 7 out at a local establishment was fascinating to see who was rooting for who, and basically it was just all Sabres fans sitting there like, somebody's gonna win, and I'm not gonna like either of it. And
I was cool with O'Reilly. I'm like, you know what? Because it's not Boston. You just to fucking humor you here, ding. Pastrnak,
That's all I needed.
go to hell.
I think the Bruins end up with more points.
Okay.
That's
I like it.
I think it's tough to say that he'll get cold playing with Bergeron and playing with Marchand, but and he's an awfully good player. Boy, it would have been cool to draft him.
Offer sheets, you cowards. Oh my god, I'm still so mad about that contract they got for him. And that.
Hey, listen.
Ah!
They didn't have to draft Alex Nylander. They could have drafted Charlie Mack. They also could have drafted Mikhail Sergachev. And they could have traded him for Jonathan Drouin.
You trying to make me cry?
They could have had Jacob Chikrin, too.
Why does it
How
have
do you
to
feel
be
about
Boston?
Look at me.
I just yeeted the hat over the
I don't
corner.
score the goals. I was just.
God damn it.
He just posed a question that he knew would make your head explode. That's all.
You're pulling the Frank,
This
aren't
is
you?
why we're here.
This is the heel turn. That's what this was. You're like, it's the Raging Buffalo. We haven't had a rage moment yet. You know what? Great idea. I'm gonna
Truthfully,
show
it
up. I'm gonna
wasn't.
show up and I'm gonna piss Derek off. There it is. It's all part of your master plan. Butthole.
Bottle.
Yeah.
I don't know
We're
if that
falling
joke's
off the
too
rails a
old
little
for
bit
you
here.
guys.
Yeah.
Look what I did. I'm usually the one that has to try to keep things composed and in order, and now I'm the one that just took the TNT to the train tracks. Because, yes, you lit the fuse, but I was like, okay, screw you, but here's more explosives.
I don't think Kyle was aware you were filled with nitroglycerin.
No, apparently not.
No.
How do you not
This is
know
another
this?
Wednesday.
How do Just to avoid the counter, go bleep yourself. All right, I got to get back on focus here. We got to get back into this sort of thing here. What the hell do we do?
Still glad you threw Boston under the bus, though.
Yes.
St. Pastrnak would have more points.
Yeah.
I'm glad you stuck to your guns on that one.
Or it could just be like worse, and like he gets like 130, and then like
He helps the Bruins get
helps the
130.
Bruins to get like 120 or something like that, and I just send myself to the pits of hell. I don't know. Ugh.
Just another Wednesday.
Just think, though, that could set them up for a President's Trophy win and a first-round date with the Sabres. Think of how crazy that would be, and how much more you would have to hate Boston.
I mean, that's easy. You just saw what I did just by the mere mention. Especially if the Bills have to face the Patriots in the playoffs.
Boy, oh boy.
Oh, crap. I'm not ready. My body's not ready for this.
Wonder how much that would get fans around. A lot of fans around here do sympathize with other Boston teams. I wonder if that would be enough to push people to be like, you know what? No more.
Very easily.
You think so?
Very easily.
Oh, man.
Like, just because people hear, like, the Red Sox or the Celtics, the minute it's Bills Patriots in the playoffs, especially with how often they get their teeth kicked in, it's on. It's on and popping. They'll just be like, okay, this could be our first playoff win since hell if I can remember. You're going down, and now to hell with everything Boston. Like, no more Boston cream donuts. If you've got a Boston Terrier, keep it inside. Like, wow. that might be the city, Kyle. Not just me.
Cold.
It is.
That's not me talking here. That's just like what the city might have happen.
What about the town of Boston, New York, which is right nearby?
Oh man, they might have to change their name for a week. They might do it.
New Buffalo, New York.
Yeah,
That's
right. Yeah. Or just call themselves not Boston, New York.
Ooh, okay.
That's actually
Now we're getting somewhere.
Big old knot on the sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, something like that. Simple. Effective.
What? I just thought of this. Last night was Zdeno Chara's 1500th game, and it was in Montreal.
Right.
And the fans cheered him. Like,
yeah,
applauded him greatly.
Yeah, good for them.
If that happens, and if he plays game 1500 in Buffalo, he's still booed constantly, and that goes back.
It goes back
not to Boston days, but to Ottawa days.
Yeah, wasn't it like him just like pushing around Nathan Gerby one time as a Bruin, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're picking on the short guy."
Well, I think this.
So he's going to boo you forever.
This goes back to the old Ottawa Buffalo playoff series.
That's true.
Does he get cheered?
I want to say no, but I also thought that Phil Housley could have gotten booed.
I did like how they announced it though.
Yes.
Hockey Hall of Famer Phil Housley.
They kept the coach separate.
Yes.
Which was very smart by them. Because I heard that they were going to do that, and I'm like, oh no, this is going to be bad.
I was very nervous about it.
I was very nervous
and they
too.
made no mention of him being the coach from the last 2 years.
I was incredibly nervous. Like
lots of highlights from the 80s, lots of great stuff. The fans were like, hey, Phil,
yeah,
it's 50th anniversary.
They just kept it nostalgic, and that was smart by them.
Good.
But to your point,
but Zdeno Chara, booed or not?
I mean, it's an accomplishment that should be cheered no matter who it is. Mm-hmm. But I know our fans can be so damn salty. You just saw it. I wouldn't have booed him.
Do you cheer him that, or then you double down on the boos when he touches the puck during the game?
I don't boo when he touches the puck. I'm definitely over Zdeno Chara.
Okay.
I mean, I never really had a problem with him.
I never understood why Milan Lucic didn't get the same treatment.
I know, right?
That always...
Or Brad Marchand. It's always Chara. And I'm like, Chara's like... Yeah, back on those Boston teams, like, Chara's like their fourth biggest problem. And why you're giving him all the boos instead of Brad Marchand, who kicked people's legs out just to... Yes, I know you're setting
winding him up again.
You're setting up the trap again. I noticed it. But like, that's one of the strangest things that I've seen about that. Like, it's like, you know, before he ended up here as a Sabre, booing Jimmy Vesey. It's not his fault that Tim Murray traded a pick for him, and he just wanted to continue to be a college free agent.
You just wanted a month to talk to him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, it's not Vesey's fault.
Nope, that's the system.
It's the system.
Game the system to your power.
Exactly. Like,
you're a college player, say. No, this
Cal Peterson, I understood.
Crap team drafted me.
Cal Peterson, I understood a little bit because like they actually drafted him.
And they had other goalies.
Yeah, but they had other goalies. Were fine. Like, I at least understood a little frustration on the Peterson one because that's your guy that was your draft pick, and he decided to walk away from you. Well, first off, your problem for not getting the deal done. Second off, it seemed like he didn't like the situation where he didn't like where he was going to go. And then third, he ended up in LA anyway.
Yeah.
Which joke's on you, buddy. You got 11 points. And a team that statistically right now, and even from what happened last year, is worse than the Sabres. Yeah. Numbers and facts. That's all I got for you. And rage. Lots of rage.
So did you like or not like Robin Leonard's comments on Buffalo?
Ooh. I like how this is turned. We're setting Derek up to go off.
God damn it.
Speaking of spitting facts and numbers.
Hang on. I missed these comments.
You did.
Oh.
Are these from last year, or are we talking about?
These are from 2 days ago.
Most days ago. What did he end up saying here? Because I missed this.
He was asked after a start about...
I can't look at my phone. It's up there.
Time to fire it up.
Okay, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, I can't look at it because, yeah, that's my phone up there.
Basic synopsis of what you're about to say, or what you're about to see is he said he played for one of the worst defensive teams of Buffalo for 3 years.
Duh.
Okay, so duh. So you probably would have been fine with it.
Yeah, no. Like, my eyeballs saw that.
Okay.
Like, I don't really blame Robin Leonard too much for the failures of his tenure here because of the fact that they were a terrible defensive team. And, I mean, hell, last year Carter Hutton and Linus Ullmark did not get much better coverage.
Here we go.
Under Phil Housley.
Leonard on his save percent being even higher this year with the Hawks than last year with the Islanders. Quote, people talk a lot about last year, but I played for arguably the worst defensive team in the league for 3 years in Buffalo, so it's nothing new.
That's Robin Leonard, and also, again, that's something that was kind of fact.
I think I told Kat Silverman when she retweeted that, I was like, spot the lie. Spot the lie.
Yeah.
Where was he wrong? He put up his first season here in 20 whatever games. He had a 924 save percentage.
Yeah,
924.
Dude
was 920 the next season.
And then, in addition to being one of the worst defensive teams, they also couldn't score.
Yeah.
Where's the lie? You just said, come on,
like his last season he had a 906, but he was also dealing with a lot of personal problems. So I don't know, putting 906 up when you're dealing with all that. That's pretty good.
And the pylons on the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to remember, during Robin Leonard's time, there was first pairing defenseman Josh Georges. Actual thing. Real life thing.
Georges was the lineup.
Yeah, so of course he could be mad.
Hey, that pairing owned Connor McDavid multiple times.
Yeah, like Johan Larsson to start the face-off for the game.
Well.
Never forget, Bilesman. Never forget.
Hey, they did the same thing with Jersey, Vancouver. They didn't put the Hughes brothers out against each other to start the game. Come on, guys.
Yeah, but Kruger goes ahead and hey, we're in New York, BC. You're out there.
Yeah, wasn't even his line.
Yeah, he even acknowledges these things.
There's always there's
dumb things
are
are
moment. Live for the moment.
Yeah,
that's right.
Make a moment, and dumb things are dumb. Coaches try to galaxy brain and 4D chess their way to things, and it never works.
Galaxy brain, yes.
Yes. It's my favorite term now, especially with what football coaches are doing.
Yes.
Hey, I'm gonna kneel it and not center it for my kicker, as he prefers to have it in the center. Looking at you there, Matt and Maggie. Of course, then what happens? Oh, your old kicking rules come back. Bruce Arians. We wanted to take the 5-yard delay a game penalty to make our kicker try to kick it from longer because we think he could do better there. No, numbers literally say that it's better to kick from shorter distance. Come on, stop trying to play 4D chess. Stop galaxy braining all over the place here. You guys are just thinking yourselves out of the box. Same thing happens sometimes with hockey. Stop trying to make them do something that they're not good at.
Like Billy Leno playing center. Connor Sherry playing on the left wing when he's better on the right wing. Things like that.
Some easy things. Some easy things like that. Yeah. I see what you're trying to do here. It's not going to work this time. It doesn't involve Boston.
There's so many things.
Come on, you can talk about the Bills and Sabres and how many stupid things that they've done over the years. That's just like poking me with a needle and I'm not going to care. Boston, though, that's a different one. That's like taking a baseball bat to my nuts.
Wow.
It's harsh.
I mean, you just saw what happened on the mere mention of them.
I did.
There's your analogy there. You don't want to piss me off. Just talk about how good Boston is. And I'm just going to say you're the luckiest city in the world.
It's weird to say now.
No, they're the luckiest city in the world.
Me growing up and them always being, what was me? Now it's just kind of like,
because they stumble ass backwards into Belichick, and then they stumble ass backwards into Brady. They stumbled ass backwards into Belichick. I'll say it. He signed with the Jets, and then he was like, no.
Well, this is a mess.
Yeah, this is a mess. And then he resigned on a napkin.
What about the Cleveland Browns? He was there
too. Kind of a luck. Exactly. What happens there? Belichick does not become Belichick because he does not have Brady, who is a guy that they stumbled on in the 6th round, who only becomes the greatest football quarterback of all goddamn time.
And whose fault is that?
Everybody's.
No. It's yours for not being there.
See, this is my theory that that people that hate the Patriots should hate the New York Jets more, and it's my Batman Joker.
Right,
theory.
For destroying Drew Bledsoe.
Mo Lewis.
Thanks, Jets.
Mo Lewis knocking out
Bledsoe. You gave him Belichick, and then you gave him Brady. Wow, Jets. You deserve to be 1-7 and have your quarterback seeing ghosts.
I was just really happy to see that people were recognizing Happy Mo Lewis Day in New England. And finally recognizing, all right, this is the day our first favorite quarterback got knocked out, and our new Messiah joined us.
Yes. So again, with the stretch that they have, the luckiest city of all time in sports.
Well, I look at it this way: New England winning, because that was back before all the teams played nicey nice with each other the way they do nowadays. This is when the Patriots were just kind of like pushed aside because it was like, yeah, you guys have been bad for a long time. And then they go and win a Super Bowl, and suddenly the Red Sox and the Celtics and the Bruins were like, hey, that's really successful. We should try and do that too. Let's figure out how to do it. And then the Red Sox win, and then
cracking a curse.
The Celtics win, and then the Bruins win, and then the Patriots just kept winning all throughout it. And then the Sox win 2 more series, and the Celtics are great.
And like
Bruins
get a couple in there.
A game away from winning another Stanley Cup. So it's like
there were jokes around the city like, oh, there's 4-month-olds that don't know what a championship is. Yeah, you know what? Screw you, buddy.
But here's the point I was going to make on that, though. Let's see the Sabres or the Bills have a super extended run of success like that. Now, I'm not going to say like win a title, because winning a title is really hard, but like make a conference championship game, make a Stanley Cup final or a Super Bowl and see what it does to the city, because the city will go absolutely insane. Even if you get out of the first round, people here will be going bananas.
Joe, I just want the
bar set so low.
Yeah,
I just want that success and just run with it.
You mentioned that low bar. One of the only good things about no Sabres hockey this week has been the misery of Sabre Twitter kind of just like pulling everything down. Like, oh, they're losing again. Here we go again. And here comes JoJo the Idiot Circus Clown again. God damn it. I sent a tweet saying, can we just stop with this whole thing about it being last year all over again? Like, it's not the whole thing. You watch the game, they're actually far more entertaining. None of us said that they were going to be a playoff team this year. Bank the points early. Take them. Right now, all I'm looking at is they are far more competent to watch. They're far more fun to watch than they were last year. And every time that they lose one single stupid ass game, it's, oh, they're just like last year's team. No, they're not. Stop. You want to be miserable for the rest of your friggin' life? Then go for it. Be my guest. But I'm going to go ahead and enjoy watching this team playing better on the ice overall. There are some things that do need to be corrected. Rasmus Dahlin's got to figure things out for his second season. There's the sophomore slump. That's real. Oh, my God. But then you've got a power play that's looked, for the most part, deadly. That game against the Islanders, that second power play, they should have scored a freaking goal. They should have. I mean, that first one was trash, but the second one was like, okay, so they rang a couple posts and they had some great opportunities and they just didn't score. That Islanders game, they rolled snake eyes. That's all that was.
Yeah.
Dumb goal happened, and now everyone's like, oh, they're terrible again. No, they're not.
The tweets I saw after that Washington game, I had one guy tell me, he goes, this team's trash.
No.
What? Just, come on.
That's called
a trash game.
It's a trash game.
Trash team.
Hell, it was just trash 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was trash 10 minutes. So yeah, I already wrote that one off at that point. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm on a Saturday night. Whatever.
That's why I had to tell people, I was like, if you try to ride like an emotional roller coaster you do with football, where like you spend the whole week leading up to that one game, and if that game goes sideways, it's just like, this sucks. If you do that with hockey, like the schedule,
you're not gonna live.
Once they come back from Sweden, they have games in 10 of the next 15 days.
Isn't it like an every other day basis?
Pretty much. I think it's like 5 and 7 days at the end of the month. Like, all right, like you try to live that roller coaster going into like Thanksgiving and into the holidays.
Stop living like you just had a hallway of Legos to step on all the goddamn time.
Yeah.
Stop. You don't need to. It's a long season. It's 82 games. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. And yes, this is me getting too pissed off about people getting too pissed off.
Do as I say, not as I do.
It's a disclaimer for the program, right?
Yes. It's a disclaimer to my life. Do as I say, not as I do. And then I don't do what I say and just do things, and it's like, what are you doing there, stupid? That's me. Hi. Derek Kramer.
Derek.
Oh my God. There it is. So you got 2 little idiot rants out of me.
See, I think it's good you don't have a rundown, because this allows this to happen. Because otherwise, the rundown becomes, we're going to do this.
Oh, Kyle's got a notebook here. Like we had to we came up with these talking points. We didn't even hit on half of these. But again,
hey, we did good.
We did good. Actually, we hit on half of these.
Yeah.
We hit it with like a blunderbuss.
And now, ready? You ready for the watershed moment?
Sure.
That's the Raging Buffalo podcast for you, Chief. Smile for the camera there, Kyle. There you go. See? Look at that. Yes, I'm that kind of guy. Like I like having emotion. It's fun. It's stupid. It oftentimes will backfire on me, but it beats the hell out of just being negative all the time.
Yeah. It's a good, honest moment there.
It's it.
Glad you had that.
I mean, trust me, optimism sometimes can be coincidental with idiocy.
Sometimes.
See the last 20 years of Buffalo sports. But
That's just Sideshow Bob stepping on a series of rakes all the time.
yeah, you know what? Whatever, though. If I'm going to look stupid, I'm going to look stupid. Whatever. But now you can see how I look stupid.
What's this rake I steps on? Oh, it's the Ryan brothers. Oh, no. Oh,
Don't give me a third rant, please.
Dick Geron. Oh, crap.
Kyle knows
The
this.
tank. Oh,
Kyle knows this one. I have an irrational hatred for Rex Ryan.
Yep.
Kyle,
No.
you just want me to flip out again, don't you? I think with that, this has been the Raging Buffalo podcast. Derek Kramer,
Kyle Powell.
Joe Yerdon.
Joe Yerdon of The Athletic. If you're not following Joe by now, first off, you're doing it wrong. Second off, you're doing it wrong. And third, follow him at Joe Yerdon.
Yeah, do that. And subscribe to The Athletic, too. We're good.
I'll say it. It's worth the price every time. A proud subscriber. You get great content from Joe, and not just from Joe, but from all the other Buffalo writers, like a John Vogel, Matt Fairburn, Joe Biscaglia, Lindsay D'Arcangelo, and then you also get every one of them across the United States and Canada and North America. Like, you get all of their content.
You get England, too. You like soccer? We got everybody.
So
it's good.
So give a couple bucks a month. It's worth it. Trust me.
Don't take my word for it, but also take my word for it.
You get hashtag content out of it. So there you go. I did see, speaking of hashtag content, you contributed to a chirping article for The Athletic that I took a read at today, and I'm like, that's my kind of thing right there. Chirping. I need to read this. And
well, it wasn't a huge contribution. It was basically I helped out Sean Gordon with getting in touch with Matthew Barnaby, who is probably one of the all-time chirpers.
Who's one of the chiefs of chirp. Yeah, so
I was a little inside baseball. I was a little I wasn't upset, but I was just like, oh man, you're doing that because I wanted to do it on, just on the Sabres, like because they're not going to tell me what anybody says.
Chirping is so fun.
But just to ask the guys who's the best chirper out of the bunch, and I guarantee that it's probably Jeff Skinner.
Oh, it's got to be Skinner.
Based on the story I wrote last year on Jeff Skinner, where all the Sabres defensemen were like, thank God we're playing with him now. Done deal with that guy. I would bet money on it. Plus, like the Capitals game, Tom Wilson leaning out over the board, screaming at somebody in the Sabres. Who was he yelling at? Right as I thought it, the camera cuts and it's Skinner hanging out over the bench. Okay, all right, this makes sense.
And then Lemieux going after him after the second period in the Rangers game, like he's a target for it because he's running his mouth a lot.
But
when you score 40 goals and you're running your mouth, then it's like, oh, I really want to hit you. Because not only are you annoying me, you're also doing things.
Maybe it's accentuating a tug on the jersey or a stick on the feet, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's towing a line sometimes, but
anyway,
running the mouth does not help.
We're getting off the rails
again, but that's how we always end things here with the Raging Buffalo. Is always off the rails, never scripted. Sometimes script-ish, but never scripted. Joe, thank you for being the first guest for the Raging Buffalo.
Awesome, thanks guys. I really appreciate you having me in and helping you kind of get the ship sailing here. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's also the first time Kyle's been on for one of the pods so far. So far it's been me and Zach Jones and Zach not knowing how to friggin' skate.
Holding down the fort. Well, I wouldn't be much better.
I kind of want to see this. Ice Up Sun is a series throughout the year, so...
Tell me when, because I have a lot of friends that want to play hockey with me, but I do not want to get on the ice. It's an irrational fear.
Trust me, you can look at the video on our channel. You couldn't do much worse. Actually, you couldn't do worse. I'm not even going to say much. You could not literally do worse. He was walking.
I thrive on low bars.
He was walking on the ice. It was fantastically stupid. If you haven't watched it, you can go watch that, Ice Up Sun. And I need to do another episode of that because it's been a week old.
Oh, count me in.
So, there we go. Kyle's the next victim there, I guess. And of course, speaking of victims, Habanero Hot Takes will be coming at you at the end of the month. I'm terrified. I'm not ready for this. Bleep.
Ding.
So there it is. That stuff coming your way. Thank you for listening. Derek Kramer. Follow me on Twitter at DerekKramer49.
I just went back to this too. I'm very, very, very fond of this Twitter handle. Kyle Powell at datdude_KP.
And of course, that's Joe Yerdon of The Athletic. You follow him at Joe Yerdon.
Yeah.
And the noted jerk himself will give you the content you need and desire.
Try to, anyways.
Try to, anyways. Hey, honest effort, always.
Yes.
Honest effort, and then peak results just because. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on our YouTube channel as well. So like and subscribe while you're there. We appreciate the love. And hey, Sabres finally get to play this weekend. The Bills, hoping to beat another underperforming team. We'll see what happens. Should be fun. And you'll be hearing more from us.